Many people have found themselves scrolling through social media and seeing someone's brand new whatever, whether it's a car, outfits, or an aesthetic space. And before they know it, they're mentally adding these things to their wish list, or worse, hitting add to cart. But here's a question worth asking yourself before you buy. If no one ever saw this item, would I still want it? And it's a very simple question, but if you're able to actually be honest with yourself, it has the power to completely shift how you think about spending. It challenges you to examine your motives and consider whether what you buy is about you or how you're perceived by others. So let's break this down. But first, to understand the impact of this question, we have to get honest about why we buy things in the first place. And you know, sometimes the answer is easy and we simply need the item, whether it's food, shelter, or the occasional replacement for that pair of shoes that's literally falling apart. But let's be honest, sometimes most of our purchases go beyond basic needs. And they're sometimes tied to deeper, less tangible desires, such as the need to feel accomplished, to fit in, to impress, or to chase a lifestyle we've been sold through influencers. Now, obviously, there's nothing inherently wrong with treating yourself and enjoying life's comforts. The problem, though, is that over time, if we're not careful, our spending can start to become driven by external validation rather than internal satisfaction. And that's where the question of, if no one ever saw that item, would I still want it, becomes so powerful. Now, at first glance, it might seem like a strange thought experiment, but this question forces you to consider your true desires. So be honest with yourself. If no one ever saw your new car, your designer handbags, or that expensive watch, would you still feel the same excitement about owning it? And it's something to think about because this question really digs into whether you're buying an item because you genuinely like it and it makes sense in your life, or because of how you want to present yourself to the world. And asking yourself this can also help separate who you are from what you own. So it encourages you to define your identity on your own terms and not through things meant to signal status or success. So now that we've unpacked the question, here's how applying it to your spending habits is going to be financially beneficial. First of all, it can result in less impulse spending, which are purchases that often stem from a desire to fill a temporary emotional need, whether it's boredom, envy, or even a reward for hard work. Because when you pause and ask yourself this question, it creates a moment of reflection where you're able to discern whether the item's appeal is about your own enjoyment or others seeing you with it. In addition, it also brings clarity to your spending because when you start prioritizing the things that you genuinely want and need, your spending will naturally become more focused. So you're less likely to splurge on a whim and more likely to invest in things that will enhance your life. And this clarity will also make it so much easier to stick to a budget and put funds towards things that actually matter to you, such as saving for the future or paying down debt or maybe treating yourself to an experience. Likewise, this question could also result in less clutter. Think about the items in your home that you bought on a whim, only to now have them sitting in a drawer or sitting in a closet collecting dust. That's a lot of wasted space and money. But when you filter your purchases through the mindset of that question, you'll end up with fewer things that are more meaningful and useful. And over time, this leads to a more intentional and clutter-free space that can bring more satisfaction. And it also breaks the cycle of comparison because by shifting your focus inward, you're freeing yourself from that exhausting trap of trying to keep up with others. So you're no longer chasing trends or feeling the pressure to match someone else's highlight reel. Instead, you're building a life and a financial plan that reflects your own priorities. But the million-dollar question is, how can you actually apply the mindset behind this question? Well, the first thing you can do is create a cooling off period. So before making a non-essential purchase, wait at least 24 hours or longer. And use this time to not only ask yourself the question, but also to allow the initial excitement to fade. Because after a day passes, you might realize that you didn't really need or want the item in the first place. Also, start prioritizing experiences over things. Research shows that people tend to enjoy more lasting happiness from experiences rather than material possessions. So whether it's an inexpensive weekend getaway, a concert, or simply trying a new hobby, spending money on things you'll do rather than things you'll own is often more fulfilling. Likewise, audit your current belongings. So take a look around your house and then consider how many of your possessions were bought with external validation in mind. And from here, use this exercise as an opportunity to declutter and reflect on how you want to approach future purchases. And finally, you have to set personal financial goals, because when you have clear goals, whether it's building an emergency fund or saving for a dream vacation, it becomes so much easier to filter out unnecessary spending. Every dollar saved will bring you closer to something meaningful, and as a result, saying no to impulse buys will start to feel like second nature instead of restrictive. And this impact can go well beyond your bank account, because it encourages an intentional mindset in not only your finances, but in all areas of your life.